will take from me at Hungadunga when I saw him the other day.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. So,
There you go.
it's Monday, July 21st, 2025, and this is a regular meeting of Moscow's City Council. Julia.
Please stand if you're able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you all. And we're off to a flying start. First up on the agenda is the consent agenda, and this is made up of items that have been previously reviewed by Public Works and Finance or the Administrative Committee and represent mostly routine housekeeping matters. And any item on the consent agenda can be removed for separate consideration by any member of the council.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. No discussion. Bryce.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Haley.
Sorry.
Aye.
Okay. That being done, move on to the regular agenda. First up, we have mayoral appointments, of which I have one. Ashland Werner for the Sustainable Environment Commission, the non-voting high school seat, term expiring 12/31/2025.
I move we approve Ashland Warren to the commission.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Haley.
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
And Bryce.
Aye.
Are you back there anywhere?
Ashland
Yep.
Werner. So.
Right.
Yep.
And just as a plug to get more high schooler and college students on some of our commissions. So it's very exciting. So value that input.
So welcome in absentia to the commissions and do good things. Next up is public comment, and for the next 15 minutes in 3-minute increments, we invite the public to come up to the podium, state your name and where you live, and tell us what's on your mind, as long as it's not pending on tonight's agenda here at City Council, nor pending before Planning and Zoning Commission or the Zoning Board of Adjustment. So with those stipulations, do we have any takers? Okay, we're buzzing right.
Jinx us.
Oh, we do. Nathan, you got to step quick, dude.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I just want to thank everyone for being here. I was accepted to the Fair and Affordable Housing Committee earlier this year, but I was still in deployment to Kosovo, so I couldn't accept it in person, but I just wanted to thank the Mayor and the City Council for appointing me to Fair and Affordable Housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
You get to do good things too.
Twice over.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
glad
thanks,
you're back.
Nathan. Yes. Okay, next up is a public hearing on the Woodbury First Edition Major Planned Unit Development Amendment and Replat. And have to preamble this one with an explanation of how public hearings in Idaho work. They're very formal events, and they're dictated in how they work by the state and the state legislature. So here's how it goes. I open the public hearing. Mike Ray from staff presents the issue at hand. After Mike Ray gets done with the first run through, the council can ask questions of Mike of pertinent nature, but not enter into any discussion or deliberation. After Mike and the council get done with that first bite at it, the applicant comes up and provides any details they would like to provide on the topic. Following that, and questions from council possibly. After that, we hear testimony from the public, first in favor of the application, followed by testimony in opposition, followed by general testimony. After that, the applicant can come back up and speak to any of the points that were made by the public at that time. And subsequent to that, the public hearing closes and council enters deliberation to achieve a conclusion. So with that lengthy preamble, welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. So before you tonight, we have a public hearing. It's the Woodbury First Edition Major Plan Unit Development Amendment, as well as preliminary replat. And this is the subject property highlighted in red, the center of your screen. It's the Woodbury First Edition. Currently an outdated photo, but infrastructure has been constructed on a portion, phase 1. So Woodbury Drive, you can see the plat lines here. And then Sloniker has been extended to about this location right here. Lanny Drive with Peekaboo Estates Edition is to the southwest. Got Orchard Avenue running north-south, located to the west. Arborcrest and Trail Road here to the north. So the applicant's Winston Company LLC. They're proposing the major PUD amendment of the existing 21.73 acre Woodbury First Edition subdivision to increase the number of lots from 78 to 107, ranging from 715 square feet to 22,215 square feet in size. Also included in the proposal is the proposed preliminary replat, and that's just of a 12.27 acre portion of the existing subdivision. That's to create 81 lots from the existing 52. So those lots range from 715 square feet to 8,339 square feet in size. The proposal is referred to as the Woodbury First Edition replat. And the proposed replat would increase the total number of lots in the Woodbury First Edition subdivision from 78 to 107. So a little bit of background. September 20th of 2021, City Council approved the annexation, comp plan, designation, zoning designation, and PUD for Woodbury First Edition with no conditions. And then subsequently, Council approved the preliminary plat for Woodbury First Edition with the following 3 conditions recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission. The first one was related to a turn lane eastbound on Mountain View onto Sloniker Drive. And the second was improvements to Mountain View Road, essentially from the Herc all the way up to Sloniker intersection. That was the east side of the roadway. And then that access shall be restricted to the subject property from Sloniker Drive. That was mainly just for the public infrastructure improvements to the streets at that time. And then October 17th of 2022, Woodbury First Edition received final plat and final PD approval from the City Council with 1 condition. The city identified at the time additional water sewer infrastructure will be required to serve certain portions of the subdivision. Developers shall design and construct all necessary infrastructure and will not proceed until said infrastructure is completed, installed, and accepted by the city for each phase of the subdivision in accordance with the approved development agreement. As I mentioned before, Sloniker Drive has been extended into the subdivision. Infrastructure for the first phase has been completed. That also includes Woodbury Drive, Piketty Circle, currently approximately 15 single-family homes, which are under various stages of construction within the subdivision. And then the improvements to Mountain View Road, so road widening, curb gutter, tree lawn, sidewalks, as well as the left-hand turn lane onto Sloniker Drive. Those were constructed in 2024. So taking a look, this is at the end of Sloniker, looking into the subdivision as it currently exists today. So this is looking in that northwesterly direction. This is the intersection of Sloniker and Woodbury, looking northwest. This is one of the private streets. This is Piketty. Looking down the street, almost all the houses are rear loaded here off the private streets. Another angle. And then the front of the houses that have been constructed here, this is a pedestrian pathway, and eventually it'll on-look open space area located over here. So you can see really xeriscaping throughout the subdivision, small lot sizes. And these were the improvements that were constructed on Mountain View Road. So you can see from the Herc all the way up to that intersection, and then there's the left turn lane onto Sloniker. Comprehensive plan land use designation is suburban commercial for this pocket located near the Central Park area of the development of the core. And then auto urban residential is the yellow designation, as well as the surrounding property is also designated as auto urban residential. Zoning configuration, neighborhood business properties located again near the core. And then R2 designation, which is moderate density, single family residential for the remainder of the first phase of the subdivision. Surrounding within the county is the ag forest zone, R1 down here with Peekaboo Estates, as well as the Blackwood addition on Sloniker Drive. So continuing the background, existing first edition subdivision and PUD is 21.73 acre area, 78 lots ranging from 3,823 to 16,321 square feet in size. It's a first phase of a master plan subdivision, has a new urbanist design. The entire property is 82 acres in size, and that extends from Sloniker Drive to the south, Arbor Crest Road to the west, Trail Road to the north, and slightly to the east of Yeomans to the east as well. And this is the full master plan that the applicant plans on developing. So the entire concept's a community that includes a number of small neighborhoods that are linked by a combination of city and private streets. Includes reloaded garages, front porches, tree-lined streets, and a walkway system will connect a number of small linear parks. Each home in the neighborhood is proposed to be unique, but also have the same architectural style. And this was kind of an idea of how the rest of the 82 acres is planned on developing and how that first phase fits in to the remaining 82 acres there. So this was the original proposal. There's 4 different types of lots: neighborhood business, cottage, garden, and estate lots, really ranging in sizes. The estate lots were the larger lots on the outskirts of the development, trying to provide a transition from some of the existing subdivisions. They provided existing house plans as well as floor plans for each of the different types of lots. Really just ranging in sizes, but of the same architectural character. So those are the estate lots. Those are the largest ones. So the applicants indicated they wish to make some changes to the existing subdivision and PUD in order to construct houses which are more affordable. Applicant indicates that one way of doing that without affecting quality is to decrease the size of the lots, decrease the size of the dwellings which are constructed upon the lots, and allow for a variety of housing types. And therefore, they're proposing a major PUD amendment to increase the number of lots from 78 to 107. As part of the PUD amendment, applicant's also proposing the replat that we had discussed before. Currently contains 52 lots. The proposal will increase the number of lots within the replat area to 81 lots for a total of 107 in the entire subdivision. So really, a few different areas the applicant's proposing changes on, about 5 different areas. And so we can start with Southwick Court and kind of move counterclockwise, but this is a Central Park area. Referring to the town center around the Central Park, and these are the neighborhood business zoned lots just for your reference here. So starting with Southwick Court, the proposal here is to take 4 existing lots and plat those into 9 more cottage lots with 2 different floor plans and sizes. A walkway surrounds all of these lots here, provides access to the front, and then an internal parking area around the center of the development. So 3 dwellings are 1,100 square feet in size, contain 1 bedroom. 6 dwellings are 1,200 square feet in size and contain 3 bedrooms. All the dwellings in Southwick are proposed to be 2 stories in height, will surround a common parking area. There's 13 parking spaces proposed. So that's 1 parking space per dwelling and 4 additional spaces to be assigned. Equates to 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit, which would be below current code requirements of 2 parking spaces for single family dwellings. This is a conceptual of what those cottages would look like here in the walkway that surrounds on Southwick Court. So of the same architectural character as currently exists within the subdivision. And then these are the floor plans of the 2 different types. So the smaller being on the left side of the screen. So living, and then 1 bedroom above, as well as an office and a bathroom. And then the other floor plan, essentially living, dining, bedroom. So it brings us to the Willows, located here. So essentially dividing 2 lots into 4. And so these are smaller cottages with parking off of the private street. So they're detached 2-story dwellings, 1,152 square feet in size, containing 1 bedroom on each of the 4 lots, 8 parking spaces, which are accessed via Cottage Lane. And that equates to 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit, which meets our current code requirements. This is the floor plan that was submitted, so similar to the other cottage dwelling in Southwick. Living, dining, first floor, the bathroom, as well as a bedroom and office, bathroom on the 2nd floor. So these are the exterior elevations that were submitted. Brings us to the Central Park townhomes portion. So some of these to the west of the pathway are within the neighborhood business zone. So the ones located over here, essentially planning on being townhouses for these units that face Park Place, which is the street that surrounds Central Park. And this is what the applicant's referring to as mews off the alley, which are just small dwellings. And then these townhouses to the east here have rear-loaded two-car garages. So it's proposing to divide approximately 7 lots into 14, 8 larger townhouse units, which each share a common wall with another dwelling unit. So applicants calling these townhouses, but per our code, they'd essentially be twin homes since they're just 2 attached units. Each townhouse unit contains 2 or 3 bedrooms, will range from 2 to 3 stories in height, approximately 2,160 square feet in size. 4 townhomes on the west side of the walkway have 4 small homes and what the applicant's referring to as mews, which will face Cottage Lane. And they're about 1,000 square feet in size for the mews. So as I mentioned before, those 4 to the west townhomes and 4 mews are in the neighborhood business zone. Providing 1 off-street parking space per dwelling proposed. The townhouse is on the east side of the walking path, have backyards and 2-car garages, which meet our code requirements. The 2 additional mews are located along the walkway running from Cottage Lane to Park Place, and they have 1 off-street parking space per dwelling. These are the typical floor plans that were submitted for the townhomes. You can see the first floor is living, dining, front porches. And then the applicants indicated that they're planning on building 2 or 3-story structures. Obviously, these are the 3-story. Second floor would have 2 bedrooms in each unit. And then the third would contain an additional bedroom and a bathroom. This would be an example of a mew on one side and a garage on the other. So really just a 1-bedroom, 2-story unit for the mew. And then example elevations for the townhouses here. And these would be the 2 stories. Now it brings us to the town center located here. So you have a variation of townhouses located in this area, as well as more neighborhood business, commercial, ground floor, maybe some retail, office and residential above, rear loaded off of the private street to the west. And more urban design as far as the street. We can talk about that in a little while. So these neighborhood business lots adjacent to Woodbury Drive proposed to be further divided from approximately 6 lots to 14, referred to as the town center. Redesign these wider lots into narrow storefront lots intended to resemble 1890s downtown facades with 2 to 3-story buildings which share common walls. Existing lots were approved to allow any use in the neighborhood business zone would permit. Whatever structure would fit within the parameters of the PUD and neighborhood business zone. Applicants now provided some more detail on the type of structure that will be built, kind of what uses would be targeted for the town center lots. Consist of retail or offices on the ground floor with offices and dwelling units above. Number of dwelling units obviously would need to comply with the base density requirements of the PUD, and we can go through that a little bit later as well. So there's currently 18 off-street parking spaces shown on the town center lots. Applicants proposing that each dwelling unit that's constructed have 1 dedicated off-street parking space in those locations. They are proposing 41, so at the west side of Rosemary, which is the private street that abuts these lots, that 41 temporary parking spaces proposed to be constructed temporarily directly adjacent to Rosemary Lane to gauge the need for off-street parking for the buildings and uses constructed within the town center. And this was the town center facades that providing some examples of what the applicant envisions being constructed on those lots. Brings us to the last area of change, so the Woodbury Drive area here to the south, and that's intended to be townhomes, recreation with pickleball court and cottages. Townhomes are located here. They are planning on extending Cottage Lane, and so that's a new street extension. Cottage Lane runs over here, and they plan on extending that across the street to break up the block a little bit. But yeah, townhouses, pickleball, and then 2 smaller cottages there with parking off the alley. So 4 lots in this area proposed to be divided into 4 attached townhomes. So similar to the Central Park townhouse units, which contain 2 to 3 bedrooms, will range between 2 to 3 stories in height. An indoor pickleball court, 2 attached cottages. Those are similar to the 24 by 24 foot cottages that are being proposed in Southwick. And then off-street parking, 7 off-street parking spaces provided to serve the 4 townhouses, 3 for the 2 cottages. And then the indoor pickleball court property has provided 4 off-street public parking spaces there. So going through the base density, R2 zone is 4.8 dwelling units per acre. The current proposal is 4.13 dwelling units being proposed. So within the base density requirement there. The neighborhood business is 24 dwelling units per acre. There's 1.18 acres of neighborhood business zone land. So that would be 28 dwelling units that they'd be restricted to, at least for the base density. And the applicants proposed 21 lots in neighborhood business zone, which would be limited to a total of 28 dwelling units. They intend to put some dwellings above some of the commercial properties near the town center. So they would be restricted to that limitation. Other changes, the existing setback requirements. So typically it's about 5 foot all around for most of the lots, except for around kind of the neighborhood business lots where they had 0 on the sides and 5 in the front and the rear. State lots were a little bit larger, 10 on the front and the rear. In order to accommodate the range of dwellings being proposed here and lot sizes, the applicant's proposing 0 setbacks around the neighborhood business and some of the small lots. Remaining the same on cottage and garden lots, and then a slight adjustment on estates going from 10 to 5. So accessory dwelling units are permitted so long as setbacks can be met. So the village cottage and garden lots, they have a maximum floor area of 750 square feet. So they're allowed to go a little larger than our current code requirement of 600. The estate lots have a maximum floor area of 1,200 square feet. And they currently require 1 additional parking space. And this is essentially citywide as well as within this PUD. The applicant's proposing that only ADUs over 600 square feet be required to provide 1 additional parking space. And so that's part of the proposal as well. Applicants provided an on-street and off-street parking plan. The on-street parking is provided on both sides of Sloniker Drive and on one side of Woodbury Park Place and Ashton Lane. They've estimated the number of on-street spaces at 130 in the first phase. Public off-street parking spaces are proposed to be reduced from 17 to 25 that were approved with the existing PUD. They are constructing, we discussed this before, 41 temporary parking spaces adjacent to Rosemary Lane in order to provide public parking for the town center lots. Plan on monitoring for usage with the goal of increasing, sustaining, or reducing off-street parking in the future phases. Staff work with the applicant. I think we're fairly comfortable with this approach as it will provide a gauge of the actual parking demand in the area, and more off-street parking facilities could be recommended to be constructed in future phases of the development since this is just first phase. This is the parking plan that the applicant submitted. So you can see those 41 temporary spaces on the west side of Rosemary that they plan on constructing there. Brings us to the next proposal. So Ashton Lane, this is currently public and it's
Ask
one.
a question before I forget, just about that 41. No.
Save it.
Okay, I'll save it. Just remind me. Never mind.
It's okay. Just keep the ball rolling.
All right.
So Ashton Lane is currently public. It's one-way street with parking on one side of the street. This is towards the detention pond. We have Sloniker and Woodbury here. So currently a public one-way street. This was the street standard that was agreed upon and approved. And the applicant is proposing to take that to a private road section and allow two-way traffic instead of just one-way, as well as parking on one side of the street, which alternates street tree area there. You can see from the overhead here that these are intended to resemble street tree locations, and then they would have parking within a gravel strip, essentially within these street tree areas. I think we're fairly comfortable with a private street. The applicants indicated that they'll engage in a private stormwater system. That was the concern with gravel entering a public stormwater system, but they've worked with streets and engineering in order to come up with this proposal And I think we're comfortable with that as well. And then Northern Woodbury Drive, I'd mentioned this before, it's going to more of an urban standard. So this goes from our 28-foot residential standard to more of an urban, just because it's transitioning into the town center. So 11-foot wide, 11.5-foot wide sidewalks with furnishing zone and trees, and then a 9.5-foot sidewalk on the other side of the street. And it's just for a block and a half area. Also going from 60 feet for the standard right-of-way width to 54 feet. And that's really the impetus for the vacation being proposed tonight as well. This was the replat area. So essentially just reflecting what the PUD amendment is proposing. And the areas that are being replatted are just in the shade of red there, crosshatched. So mainly just the areas we just discussed, as well as across Sloniker Drive to the east, essentially just shifting some lot lines around. This currently 4 lots and just changing the configuration, still remaining at 4 lots there. Looking at the street configuration of the area, you can see the blue line represents minor arterials. So Trail, Mountain View are minor arterials. Orchard is a collector. Lanny is a collector as well, intended to provide connection at some point in the future, all the way to Mountain View. So there was a traffic impact study that was previously conducted. And the intersections that were analyzed were Mountain View and D and Mountain View and F. Traffic impact study was conducted for the full build out of the subdivision at an estimated 270 dwelling units. It concluded that the proposed subdivision is expected to result in minimal impacts to vehicle traffic conditions at the study intersections and meet city operating standards under all development scenarios. Also concluded that no mitigations are needed to address potential project impacts to traffic conditions. Our engineering department has reviewed the prior TIS and determined that the additional lots won't have a significant impact on the level of service at those intersections that were analyzed. Of course, the improvements to Mountain View Road to mitigate the impact of the development have already been constructed. And then we, of course, require another TIS to be conducted at the next phase when the connection to Arborcrest Orchard is being proposed. Looking at water service, the engineering department has determined that the additional lots will have a negligible impact on domestic water demand in the area. NB zone lots with potential commercial uses may increase fire flow for the subdivision. There's a water modeling report for the original plat that was done prior to upgrades to the Ponderosa booster station. Recommended connecting to the main pressure zone in Sloniker, as the Ponderosa station was insufficient to serve the development. After we conducted that water modeling analysis, city constructed the new pump station serving the Orchard Avenue pressure zone, and the Woodbury addition was included in the potential service area of the pump station. Developers also constructed a connection to that pressure zone and installed a pressure reducing valve near the connection of the main pressure zone in Sloniker, expanding the Orchard pressure zone as intended in the new pump station design. So we've got recent flow tests in the vicinity of the neighborhood business lots coming in at 3,800 gallons per minute, which should be sufficient to serve any use that occurs there. And then any supply deficiencies for other uses can be mitigated by installing fire suppression systems in the building and or constructing a building with more fire resistant building type. So this was the existing Ponderosa zone. You can see the Highland Drive area, Orchard, Arborcrest. And these were the areas that were expanded with the new booster station. So Woodbury, the entire property, as well as the trail property here to the north could potentially be within the Ponderosa zone as well. Storm sewers piped and conveyed to an existing detention pond in the southwest corner of the subdivision. Just because of the increased density and subsequent increase in overall impervious area of the development, existing Woodbury stormwater report will need to be revised, and any necessary modifications to the existing detention pond will need to be completed in the next phase of the development. And of course, need to meet our stormwater runoff control standards to be detained at the pre-development rate. No changes are needed to the existing sanitary sewer system. The engineering department has indicated that the planned Lanny Drive connection will need to be made in the next phase of the development. So that brings us to the recommendation. So Planning and Zoning Commission conducted a public hearing for the major PUD amendment and replat on June 25th of last month. The recommended approval with one condition. The applicant shall be required to update the existing stormwater report for the subdivision and include any mitigation actions necessary to ensure the stormwater facilities will have no downstream adverse impacts to the approval of the, subject to the approval of the city engineer. And with that, staff recommends the council conduct a public hearing upon the major PUD amendment and preliminary replat, and upon consideration of testimony received, approved the major PUD amendment for Woodbury First Edition with no conditions, and adopt P&Z's RCS document. And then if the major PUD amendment's approved, approve the replat of Woodbury First Edition with one condition, and adopt P&Z's RCS document. And certainly try to answer any questions you had.
I know you have one.
Yeah, I do. Sorry, it was just a clarification. I mean, I'm gonna just go through my list. Is that okay? Those 41 parking spaces that you were calling temporary, when I first read that, I thought you meant like short term, but you really mean temporary, like if they're not used, they're gonna go away and be redeveloped into something else?
Well, I think we would assess that in the future at the next phase. So they're technically on the property of the next phase, which the applicants purchased from the underlying property owner. And so I think we would, as this development in the first phase occurs, we would just monitor, I think how much they're getting utilized there and whether or not they're really needed or there's enough parking within the existing phase one to not require those additional spaces. But this is thinking of the future of, maybe there's a public parking lot that's constructed in phase two based upon what's occurring with these temporary spaces. But I think the intention is that they go away at some point, and then a more permanent option is constructed.
Within the larger,
Within the
Which
larger
in the-
82 acres, yeah. And really the concern is just the town center, just because that's where the parking reductions occurring with those neighborhood business lots and, few small ones with some of the smaller cottage lots as well, but nothing substantial there.
okay. I think I understand now. I was just making it short term in my mind, like business parking, like downtown parking, but you really mean they'd go away, potentially. So my concern is really about parking. I understand that there's some areas that will only have 1.5 spaces, and that's below our standard of 2 spaces. But also there's the ADU parking that's being waived at this point. Is that right?
Applicants proposing, yeah, if they're of a certain size, so 600 square feet and less. If they're over that, then it would still require one parking space. So regardless of the size of the house, so if currently our code, if you have 1,000 square foot house or you have a 4,000 square foot house, there's no sliding scale. We essentially just require 2 parking spaces. And so that's always been a discussion is if you have a smaller house, maybe you have less occupants, maybe there should be less of a parking requirement. But we just don't have that built into our code currently.
I think when I was first on council, I thought, oh, less parking, that's good. We need to get people out of their cars. It's a good thing. But I think what in reality, though, what's happening is that we're having a lot of overflow parking from places that we allowed to have less parking, like, what's it called now? The Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or some of the other apartment complexes or my personal neighborhood where there's just cars everywhere, and I don't think it's a good incentive to get people to not have so many cars, but it seems like people aren't taking us up on that. So that's one of my concerns. My other concern that I wanted to bring up is this last point regarding the water flow. I don't know if you want to go back to it or not, but that there could be issues with water flow during fire events. I'm paraphrasing. Especially in that commercial zone, and that could be mitigated by sprinklers or other, fireproofing, fire suppression kind of efforts. But that is a kind of a red flag for me because I don't understand who is going to enforce that. Like we're going to say, hey, we might not have enough water pressure to put out your fire. So business owner, you're going to have to build something with your own personal fire suppression that's a little bit better than other fire suppression.
Well, it'd be a building permitting stage. So it'd be the building code or building official that would require, depends on what type of construction require, if it's multifamily development over a certain number of stories, fire suppression systems are required. Certain commercial and mixed use fire suppressions are required. So it would just be reviewed at the time that they submitted building permits for the individual buildings on the lots. And so if they don't have enough fire flow, then obviously they wouldn't be able to build what they want on that lot. It's pretty common that, you have it all over the city, certain developments, they have restrictions depending upon the fire flow within the area as to what they can build.
Okay. So when the building permits are issued, that's when we look at the fire
Yeah,
flow.
I mean,
in that
it's
area.
3,800 gallons per minute is relatively high, so I don't think we have a concern over that, or engineering doesn't. It's just they may have to do some alternative means during the building construction that they would work through. There's 2-hour firewalls. There's a number of different options in order to go different routes within the building code in order to achieve what you want to build. Given the constraints, if there is some for fire flow.
Would that affect like their insurance or things like that?
Potentially, I've heard that if you sprinkle a building, you have lower insurance rates, but certainly be up to the applicant, the owner, to weigh those options at the time of permit submittal.
Okay, I'm done. I'm temporarily done.
I had a few questions. I like the idea of the smaller houses to address some more affordable. I think that's a good idea. And I think that the stormwater condition, perfect, good plan. I like that. The parking for me is a stumbling block a little bit still. Who monitors the 41 spots and decides whether or not they're being utilized, and how much are they utilized? And is it, you have to have 37 used each day for how many hours? What is that metric?
Yeah, I think as that area starts to be developed, I think that staff would continually monitor that situation, and certainly could have the applicant submit reports, instead of spending staff resources to go out and look at the parking situation. But yeah, I think that we would probably a combination of the applicant submitting a report as well as staff double checking that as well.
Okay, I like the combined effort there, because then it's not an onus on anybody specifically. And so this might be kind of a dumb question, but so in this development, when we have too many cars, what is the impact? Where do they go? Are they in the field? I guess I don't understand. We have the extra spots and everything, but those really aren't constructed yet. What happens when there's more cars than there are spots in that development?
Well, yeah, you have on-street public parking for a number
Right.
of spaces. These are really just concerning these lots, 30 lots that are surrounding the town center.
Right.
The remainder of the PUD is not changing. They're still required to provide 2 off-street parking spaces. It's more or less just to get the density and the urban feel around the town center, to make the mixed use of commercial and residential work with the density that you need to have that happen.
So am I correct then if I'm making a leap here from less parking availability towards the center, if I'm a wise consumer, I'm going to park farther out, right? In the development and then walk in, is that correct? So it would potentially impact those residences out around.
Well, I doubt that it would be spilling out into, the existing segments of Sloniker and the Blackwood addition, but certainly dispersed within the phase 1 PUD.
Woodbury. Okay. I'm just trying to understand the impacts. I can understand 1 point something and 2. That makes sense. But I guess real world, I was trying to understand that.
Yeah, and certainly the applicant could speak to their vision there about the
Okay.
reduction,
Yeah, I may
and
ask.
how they envision that playing out.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all. Thank you, sir.
I'm hoping this doesn't stray into deliberation and is just question focused here. The private stormwater aspect, Mike, is that something that we've seen done elsewhere as far as, I wrote down private stormwater. I want to make sure I understood.
Well, yeah, I mean, it'd be unique that we have a private street. We have typically, I think, public stormwater systems in a private street still. This would be private catch basins that would then be directed to our system. But in order to just catch what could flow into the catch basins and system, it'd be a private design that our streets department, Steve Schulte, worked with the applicant as well as Bob.
And would it only happen, the private stormwater piece only happen if this was turned into a private street? Right? Am I mixing up Ashton Lane with the private stormwater
It
aspect?
doesn't
Is
meet our
just-
public standards, so they need to make it a private street because it doesn't meet our standards. And so,
Your Honor. Your Honor,
Please.
if I might clarify, so private stormwater retention facilities are very common. So every commercial building, every
Gonna have,
apartment
like,
complex has a private system. Public systems are to collect public water off public streets. The reason this one needed to be private on the private street was because they had gravel parking strips, which are not generally permissible per our standards because gravel can end up in our detention facilities. So that's the distinction here, I believe Mike
Correct.
identified
Is the
early
shoulder
on. So,
parking with the gravel?
correct.
Okay,
yeah, so private systems are very common.
right.
This was public as a public street, but when they transitioned that surfacing, we did not want to have to maintain the storm system that served that gravel because we're concerned that could create a maintenance issue that will become the association's responsibility.
Okay, I'm still unclear on, like, I'm confused that we're talking about it going from a private residence to a two-way and more of an urban design, but we're saying even with it being a two-way urban design, that it doesn't meet our criteria and it would make more sense to go private. Like, the road things where I'm actually really hung up.
Yeah, there's two roadway sections. So one's Ashton, that's the one that's proposed to go private, but the other section of Woodbury, that still remains public.
Okay, I must have misunderstood. So the Woodbury is what we're talking about, switching to 2 lanes with an
It's
urban design.
currently- Well, this is currently 2 lanes with parking on one side of the street. So this meets our 28-foot standard. here.
Ruby. Okay,
We were talking about Ashton Lane.
which is a little hiccup. Okay.
As being going to a private road from a public one-way street to now private two-way
And
street.
if approved with it going private and 2-way, we would then be able to, that it would accommodate the parking on the shoulder with the gravel that would require the additional work for the stormwater. Okay, I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. Okay. I think that's the only clarifying I had. Thanks.
So I'll just echo a couple of things that were stated previously, and I appreciate your presentation, Mike, and I'm glad you brought your water bottle up. Sometimes you forget it. So, yeah. Shared with the other counselors up here, I do have concern about the parking issue, and that's certainly all over my notes here. And just for my own kind of knowledge, this is the first time I've seen this kind of request come through council with my time being on it. I'm curious if the city has amended and granted amendments to planned PUDs in this process before and what that's looked like, and if the scale has been similar or if the scale has been smaller or larger. Because I share Gina's sentiment that the smaller square footage units definitely appeal for a variety of reasons, and I think that that's definitely something to look at, and we can talk about that here in just a bit. But yeah, I'm curious when or what kind of a last amended PUD looked like, just for a frame of reference here. It might be a little helpful if that's.
I mean, minor amendments are fairly common,
Sure.
but I can't really recall a major amendment that we've gone through.
Okay.
over the years.
Okay, because I know that word major is deliberate in the packet and in your presentation. So I actually appreciate that distinction there. So you can't think of
Minor is approved administratively, and so the council wouldn't obviously see those.
Right.
And so those are minor deviations to the PUDs, but major essentially is almost starting from the beginning of the process. So neighborhood meeting, public hearing before planning and zoning, and then public hearing before council. So it follows the same process as the original PUD. But there's a number of 12 criteria or so that kick you into the major PUD. And one of them obviously is increasing density, number of units.
Great.
So
I appreciate that very much. And then the last thing, just to reiterate, and I know you're bouncing around a lot on your slides, but can you go back to the water slide just so I can see the text that was provided again, that was echoed in our packet? Sorry. I think it's the slide just right before this, actually, or is this the only one?
I believe this would be the only one.
Okay.
We've got traffic on
Just the fact, yeah, negligible. That's the word that I wanted to focus on here, just for the fact that I don't want to err too far into deliberation, but being the council liaison for planning and zoning, there was a lot of concern about water. So I just wanted to bring that up for us to focus on, and I appreciate you bringing that. How close is the Ponderosa pump station to this? It's pretty close, right?
at the end of Land
Yeah.
and Orchard intersection. So we purchased that property when Peekaboo Estates was being platted.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike.
Anything now, Sandra?
I'm waiting.
Okay.
I do have just one little question. And maybe this isn't appropriate for now, and you guys can tell me to hush. The fire suppression systems, is that an expensive thing? Like if I'm a business owner, is that a $200,000 thing, or is that will it be a barrier to entry in any way? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's more expensive than standard construction. And so there is a cost associated with that. I can't quote you. I mean, there are different types of systems. So there's residential systems, commercial systems, and it really just varies depending upon what the use is. But I couldn't even begin to tell you kind of a cost there.
Okay. I just would hate that it would be a built-in barrier.
And I can't really comment on the cost of the fire suppression. Turn my mic off. I can't really comment on the cost of a fire suppression system, but just looking at the IFC to provide some kind of frame of reference here, for a single family home, that fire, under 3,600 square feet in size, that fire flow requirement is 1,000 CFS. So I think Mike indicated 3,800 was the test result. Now that fire flow varies depending upon the construction materials and methods. So, wood frame might be the least, a concrete and steel structure would be the most fire resistant. So at that 3,750 in the IFC, you wouldn't have to install suppression until you were over, 20,000 square feet in size, or the fire flow would be able to support a building of 20,600 square feet in size.
Pretty good size.
If you get more fire resistant construction to the extreme of a type 1B, you're up to 128,000 square foot building, and that 3,800 would be adequate fire flow to provide fire protection for that building. So it's that spectrum between 20,000 to 128,000 of the size of the building. Each individual building separated by firewalls and fire area is going to be, what gets measured to determine if the fire flow is adequate for that particular structure. So just want to give some frame of reference. It is a pretty wide range.
That helps. I appreciate it.
I do have one more clarifying question. Mike, how the heck does 0-foot setbacks work? Like, I'm having trouble picturing that in my head. Is that like the equivalent of what we see like downtown? I'm thinking more as far as like sidewalk to someone's front door. Like,
It'd be the equivalent of downtown.
Okay.
So that's really the only areas that those are being proposed.
Okay.
Are just around the town center. It's more to get like a downtown
actual, okay.
Moscow feel just with that kind of block and a half area.
Jeez. Okay. I had one more, but I lost it, and maybe it might have been more of a deliberation, anyways, Mayor. So I'm good.
I just have one more.
Okay.
Just to get off all the parking and water. The pathway that goes to the overlook of the natural area, is that natural area part of the development, or is that private land?
It's adjacent property. Yeah, it's not the same
It's somebody
ownership.
else's
Yeah,
land.
you're referring to the ponds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just had a question. I mean, like somebody sent us a question about it, and I was like, so it's just private land there.
It is. Yeah, there's properties that front Orchard that are fairly deep. So when the parkland was deferred until the next phase, essentially they're planning on proposing to dedicate kind of this entire area for the public parkland with a linear pathway. But yeah, you can see the ponds kind of located down here. There's a natural drainage that flows through there. And it's picked up with the Peekaboo Estates subdivision. But yeah, that'll just be based upon the proposed grading. That'll be, a lower elevation than this development.
Thank you.
I remember my last one, and this one may actually qualify as deliberation, Mayor, so we can,
So, okay, well, we'll hit it up.
or we can wait. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
No,
Okay. Okay,
we got it.
so at this time we segue off to anything that's been missed, any of the questions associated with this on the part of the applicant. So it's your time to shine.
Good evening, Your Honor and council members. My name is Mark Wentz, and I live at 1004 Dairy Lane in Moscow. And thank you for having us tonight, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and thank you, Mike, for your presentation. It was really fantastic. A lot of work. We moved to Moscow from Los Angeles about 25 years ago. I've been a builder and developer down there, did about 200 homes and other commercial buildings. But Los Angeles, as you know, is like the poster child for sprawl, for like post-World War subdivision development. And but there was a lot of nicer stuff that was up in the hills that I saw when I was a kid. My parents and, my relatives lived around the area, and whether it's Pasadena or the Hollywood Hills or whatever, and really fantastic housing. When we walk the streets and just look at houses is just a pastime. And so when this new urbanist movement that kind of came back maybe 40 years ago, it started looking, what can we do to really take the best of our old housing areas and bring that back, the shady lane and slightly narrower streets, maybe alleys, front porches, things like that. I took a real interest in it. So didn't have an opportunity to do a lot, but it starts to affect everything you do when you love something. And when we came to Moscow, I thought, what can we do in Moscow? And so I think the answer was, over time, it's taken 25 years, was Woodbury, something that kind of incorporates all these ideas into something that can be really beautiful. So it's, the idea is it's just walkable. The architecture is entertaining. Your landscaping, of course, we're doing like the HOA takes care of almost everything that's front yards, backyards, and so forth. I mean, excuse me, not backyards, but rear areas that are on like an alley or so forth. So it really stays in pretty, excellent condition. And I think it does take an HOA to some degree to again, enforce parking. I mean, we've got so many, we can talk about that, just how I think our parking, we're very concerned about parking as well, of course. We don't want to fail in that area. And so we're going to be watching that and enforcing that. So as you know, the last 5 years or so, there's just been, it was sort of a radical jump in housing prices. And we don't really want to compromise the quality of what we're doing. So the only thing you can really do to reduce the price is reduce the size if you're going to hold quality as a standard. So that's where some of what we're bringing you is about making it a little bit smaller. Some of it, like in the downtown, we originally just had large lots there, and we were going to divide it up so it looked like little storefronts. But then we really realized it would be better to have that as a separate parcel. Someone could own that. It would take a lot more individuality and interest in it over time. So we're committed to doing the best we can in this project, and we consider, the city a partnership. I mean, you've given all your time right now is evidence of that. And so we thank you and willing to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Wentz?
I do appreciate the design of the area. I did a few years ago when we looked at it. It's unique and really is a nice addition to the community in terms of the way that it's set up. So I don't want you to think that all our questions are negative.
Of course.
And I do know that we are in desperate need of more affordable housing, even though these are still newly built and they are not going to be cheap, but at least they will provide a level that people can buy a house at. So.
No, every house built in the city helps the housing situation, wherever it is on the scale.
So, okay, don't run off.
Well, wait, I do have a question.
Go.
I have a parking question. Surprise.
Yeah.
So that those 41 temporary parking
Right.
spots, can you make those pretty in the long run?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Because I think a gravel spot, just judging from what I've seen, doesn't really
Fit the vibe.
seem to really fit the vibe.
Okay, so what we get from, in the last 5 years, we've been going around looking at these projects. There's not very much in the West. There's kind of what we're doing. There's Seabrook over just south of Seattle. That's a project like this, sort of a new town. But the guys that we've met with back east that have been very helpful have said, the residential, it's not so much a problem if you keep an eye on it, but your little town center is where you're going to have the parking problem. So as we just talked about, of course, we want it to be successful more than you do, So we got parking down there. We're going to park the streets, and we're going to keep deadbeats off the streets from just parking and taking up spots for months on time. But so I think, the idea is we're going to find little spots over time to like work in a little parking lot of 15 here or 12 over here that are kind of near the center. But we're just not at that spot yet in terms of, baking this cake yet. We're just not that far along. So as we get closer to it, I think we'll like, hey, here's a spot where we can put in a few, and we'll be watching these spots in the meantime. It's like, okay, they're always filled. It's like, we need more, they're never filled. It's like, we're going to talk about that. It's like, okay, we don't want to just have parking lot for no reason.
They're not the most beautiful things in a city, I'll agree.
Yeah. So
But they're very important.
but the gravel strip is just a temporary, that's not a.
Right on. Good.
I know you want to.
Unless Bryce wants it. Okay. And Mia, Bill, tell me if this is offsides. I'm curious because in the past few years, we continue to get questions about Airbnbs. I'm not super concerned because I think the inventory of Airbnbs or variations of short-term rentals in Moscow are not that of what we see in resort towns. But I also know that in state code, there's been some changes to HOA, what is allowed and what even HOAs can or cannot. I keep wanting to say CCR, but it's not Creedence Clearwater Revival. It's
Codes, covenants, and
Conditions,
restrictions.
and
the other one.
The
That
other
one.
band.
Yeah.
Codes.
Yeah. So I guess I'm
band.
curious with the 15 that are already in existence, are they in an HOA currently? And will they all is it just like a rolling addition for HOA? Because I promise this all comes back around to the parking question,
Okay.
which is, if short-term rentals is something that the HOA code will allow, I want to make sure that that's also factored into the conversation, because I imagine that we have one nearby our house, and there's questions from the neighbors a lot about like what cars belong to whom. So I'm wondering if that's in the big picture, if that's something that we can help the conversation for Woodbury around. But is it in the code? Are we allowed to ask that?
We have it in our HOA. It might be the same and Levi can address that for sure. But we're concerned about it. The younger generation likes the idea of this. Okay. And so I like it from the standpoint of the diversity that it brings into the neighborhood and so forth. the car is, we heavily subsidize the car. I mean, the cost of a parking spot is just like, wow. I mean, that's not going to be
Bonkers.
someone's yard now. It's going to be like left there as a car. So I don't want to make it too easy on the cars, So we thought, okay, so again, about our standard for ADUs for the short-term
Yeah.
rentals is that someone has to be there, living there.
Okay.
In
The
house. Now,
ADU is not meant to be a,
you can't just rent the house out and the ADU.
copy.
You have to be living in that house there. And we don't have any short-term rentals, I don't think, on the larger home. You have to be in there for 10 months at a time. I'm sorry, Levi. But when he gets up, I'm going to have him.
As long as you're on mic, come
Might
come
as
on up
well.
and
We labored through this and went several
So
directions.
I just,
Introduce yourself
tell
as
us
well.
Good evening, Your Honor and Counsel. I'm a partner, and my name is Levi Wentz. I'm my address is 1580 Piccadilly Circle. So yes, we're almost there. Short-term rentals are allowed as long as there is someone living on the residence while
Okay.
it's being rented. So whether they move to the ADU and are in the ADU or are living in the house while renting out the ADU, the idea is that there's accountability, for any issues that come up if, an ADU person is or a Airbnb short-term rental
Right.
person is causing an issue. So Yeah.
that helps. Thank you. Because I just wanted to clarify, like the other part with this all tying in with the conversation about Ashton Lane also going private, like we are the ones who are going to get the phone calls if there is parking that spills over, and we will have no ability to help beyond trying to be intentional with what we're doing here as far as the phase zoning and platting. And again, I think it's a quiet hand. I think it's a small but vocal number of folks who are very passionate about the Airbnb thing, but that because we can't do anything with Airbnbs, but oftentimes there's a conversation around parking. I wanted to braid all the
I think
conversation
there's a lot of
strands together.
passions on both sides of the argument.
Yeah,
So
that's a very-
we want to try to walk that as much as possible. And counsel, may I make a short statement just as,
Sure.
part of the applicant's statement. As Mike said, 4 years ago is when we came through for the initial approval on this. And in the last 4 years, a lot has changed nationally as well as locally. We've also become students of good development. We've traveled around to a lot of different developments and just dedicated ourselves to figuring out how to really make a place that encourages human flourishing. And so at Woodbury, we see ourselves actually a lot in the statement that the city has for itself. So, we really want to anticipate the needs and meet the needs of a diverse population in order to build public trust and enhance a sense of community. We're the builder developer out there. I'm also living out there now. So my work-life balance is not really there at all. But, I'm in it. We're trying to create a spot really that we'd want to live in, trying to create that. So there's a lot of details that Mike went through. You've seen the amount of work that we've been putting into this and that Mike's helped out with in preparing this information for you guys. And there's reasons behind all of it, but really we're looking at all 80 acres that's out there and really trying to maximize every portion of it. So in regard to parking, we care a lot about parking. Parking is essential, but kind of the commonality for the last 40 years is parking minimums have led to large, sparse parking lots and empty streets that encourage speeding cars to go down. And we really want to create a safe neighborhood that's beautiful. Parking lots aren't beautiful, but parking is also needed. And so everything out there is a balance. The temporary parking spots are intended to, yes, be short term, but to see what the need is and continue to shift as we build out each successive phase. We want to be meeting and matching those needs, anticipating the growth and providing it. That town center is going to need everything going right to make it work. And so if parking is an issue, then it's going to be a failure, and we can't have a failure out there. Our livelihood is on the line for that. And so we really want to make it work and just make it perfect. That's our goal with Woodbury.
I would like to ask. And to go along on that, I appreciate that a lot. I kind of echo Julia's thoughts that it's exciting to see something new and really thoughtful. And I mean, the designs you've shown they look really great. And what are your thoughts on, I mean, really going back to parking? I'm a little worried about water, not extravagantly worried about water, right? But a little. But I am concerned that in your quest, which is a really good quest to minimize that as much as possible, do you really think that there is enough parking to help all those out there? It seems small to me. And I don't know parking. I'm the first to admit that, right? It's not my world, but it really seems like there's not enough.
Right. Well, so there's that balance that we need to strike, right, of subsidizing the car while also understanding that this is a very suburban development, and there's going to be walkability within the development. Where part of it is cutting down on traffic to the rest of Moscow by limiting daily trips. You can walk and serve many of your daily needs at Woodbury. But we still live in a car dominant society. So we have our 2 off-street parking spots for every unit, besides the smaller units, which some are 1 bedroom, and we're trying to get that, minimum taken down from 2 to 1.5 in just that one area. But I think some of the stuff that hasn't been talked about is that we do have a lot of street parking out there. There's 130 parking spots in that first phase, not counting the additional 41 that we're going to create out there for the town center. So for the probably 70 to 80 residential lots, there's 130 on-street parking spots in addition to 2 off-street parking spots for every unit. So there is a lot of street parking that we put out there, and I would encourage people to use it, because if people park on the street, then cars go slower, and it actually creates a safer environment. If no one's parking on the street, then cars just go based on their intuition and speed down the street. So we do want to make sure there's at least enough cars parked on the street for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have another question.
Okay.
One more?
Yep.
All right. Nope, I'm going to save it. Never mind. Saving it for later. Sorry.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Your Honor.
There will be an opportunity for further response at the end. So now we move on to public testimony in favor of the application. Same rules apply. Up to the podium, name, location.
My name is Roger Martinson. I live at 1662 Pico T Circle. That's inside the development. My wife and I moved down here in November. We have seen these developments online, magazine articles, and we always thought they were really an awesome type of neighborhood to live in. And then when we saw this, and I've got a daughter that lives in works at WSU, we thought it was a great opportunity. We left Coeur d'Alene, moved down here. We haven't regretted that move. I think this type of neighborhood, it's a great idea. I think it's actually an asset also to the whole community. I'm looking forward to the commercial area being developed and people from outside the neighborhood coming in. No, this has been for us a great opportunity. And they were pointing out they want to maintain the quality of their builds. When we moved down here, I had a couple friends that were builders, realtors, electricians. They looked through my house and they were very pleased with what they saw versus what they typically see in Coeur d'Alene as being built. Just higher quality material and finishes. So I would say that. One thing I have heard at some of the meetings people brought up is traffic coming out of there, speeders, whatever. I just about every day walk Orchard down to Rotary Park and then back and then come down Lanny and out. And I kind of keep an eye on the traffic. I don't like speeders either. But from Lanny north, excluding this development, you have about 57 homes. We've got 6 occupied in this development, and you have the construction crews. Just walking down the street, it's like on Orchard, I don't know. It's hard because I don't have a radar gun. You know, it's just ocular. So somebody goes by faster after that. Well, was that person doing 23 and this person's doing 32? You know, I don't know. But it seems to me 90% or better of the traffic coming down there is doing the speed limit, within reason. Every once in a while, you see somebody go by kind of fast. I've never seen anybody speeding down there that lives in the development. A couple times I've seen somebody go by and goes, well, they were going kind of fast. I don't know. You know, is that somebody I should worry about? You know, it looks like a contractor or whatever. When I get home, I kind of look around the development and do I see that vehicle there? And I haven't. I'm sure you've got, if people are complaining about it, I hope they're calling the police, to come out and check on it. You should have records if they've written any tickets or warnings to people on that. But their construction people, project managers, whatever, they've talked to me and they said, if you see somebody speeding, you tell us. They're proactive. They want to know. I know that they have talked to their crews because of some of the complaints. But that was kind of the key thing there, those two things. I think this is a wonderful development. And so that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Martinson. Any further public testimony in favor? Okay, moving on, public testimony in opposition. You know the drill.
My name's Dave Lamets. I live on Lanny Drive. I'm respectfully asking, Your Honor, for an additional 2 minutes because there's been some other things that have been talked about that I'd
There's
like to
not
address as well.
really limits on public hearing testimony.
Okay. Well, we'll get started. When this development was first proposed, you were told that the city could provide water and sewer with the existing infrastructure. It was not correct. Fire flows and pressures could not be met. The city constructed the Ponderosa Booster Station for almost $2.5 million. The developer had to install a temporary water line off Arborcrest, and only then could the fire flows and pressures be met, as mentioned in the letters that I submitted with this packet. A year later, the developer received a letter stating he had to replace a sewer line at the Tuna and Juniper. Obviously, that was not correct when they said that they could provide with existing. 3 other areas that are operating at 75 to 89% are listed in the comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan was in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Since 2011, over 300 additional hookups have occurred during that time frame. So what are those currently operating at now when they were already 75 to 89% capacity? Comprehensive plans like the water and sewer are used to identify future capital improvement projects and set aside funds during the budgetary process, not to secure loans for construction, which was done with the booster station in conjunction with the Indian Hills project. Those were lumped together. Let's talk about stormwater. That's been an ongoing problem until the city paid for a storm line installation that ties the pond in Woodbury onto Lanny Drive. The developer operated, unfortunately, for 8 months without a permit through Idaho DEQ. Who monitors that? He subsequently applied for the permits and became compliant with DEQ after he was notified. The storm line that runs from Lanny Drive Pond that connects to the Woodbury Pond, that storm line runs under Tamarack and Juniper. That storm line has collapsed and it's failed. That area will flood when the rains come. Homes will flood in that area. Safety. The developer has proposed building 3-story structures in the modified plan that you see. The ladder truck cannot make the corners. The model indicates 40 feet. That ladder truck's 46 feet. They can't make the corners to supply safety and fire suppression. They talked about fire suppression issues. That's a pretty high cost. And we talk about affordable housing. That's passed on to the developer. In speaking with Chief Neckerson, his standard operating procedures, anything 3 stories and above, he would respond to ladder truck. Ladder truck can't get up in this development. It's a 40-foot radius. That truck's 46 feet. We had a recent fire on Sloniker and Mountain View. The only reason why that home was saved is because that ladder truck was able to suppress that fire in that chimney. Cost, taking out the loan of $2.5 million for the Ponderosa booster station, the Sloniker realignment was almost $49,000. The storm line from Woodbury Pond to Lanny Drive was another $84,000. That's almost $133,000. The widening project, total project, was roughly $435,000. That was supposed to be a 50-50 split with the city reimbursing the developer. I was told by the city engineer when I went and got the records, there was no differentiation between the turn pocket, which the developer was supposed to pay for, and all the other improvements. City engineer told me that that was billed as a whole. That was not the agreement. The city then reimbursed Mr. Wentz under the 50-50 of $216,548, according to the invoices that I was able to get from the city. This reimbursement violates Idaho Code 672805. States in that code, which I submitted with my packet, anything contemplated over $200,000 has to go to a competitive sealed bid. I've spoken with the Idaho Attorney General's office, the Latah County Prosecutor's office, the Idaho Controller's office, and the Idaho Division of Public Works. There is no exception that exists for reimbursement. It has to go to a bid process. Reimbursement cannot be used to circumvent Idaho code. Those are exact words that I was given. The reimbursement process has also been used in other developments to include Atani. So the total project without the booster station, you're right around $350,000 of taxpayers' money that went towards this development. So who decides what a developer pays for and what public funds are used to pay for? So based on this information, let me back up again. Earlier, they talked about Airbnbs. I have an Airbnb that opened up in my neighborhood. It's a direct violation of the covenants of the Peekaboo Estates where I currently live. There's nothing we can do about it. It can't be enforced. So with Airbnbs, I'm not sure who's going to enforce that. Maybe that's going to bring more parking. Back to the fire, with more parking, the smaller trucks are 36 feet. They're even having issues trying to make those corners up there. Now you put parking on the street. How are you going to get a fire truck up there in the event of emergency? I'm not sure. So I think there's some responsibility here with the council that needs to address those items. So based on that information, I would hope you would table the modifications until these things can be vetted out and investigated. And finally, the information I presented tonight, I received by filing records requests just like any other citizen in Moscow, and I paid for those records from my own money. I was hoping Mr. Davis would be here because I wanted to address him directly, but I'll address the council as a whole. Mr. Davis filed a complaint against me with Bill Belknap over here about my conduct in reference to this development. The accusations he made were completely false. And as a retired law enforcement officer that served this community for over 27 years, I take it very serious when someone questions my professional conduct and my integrity. So as elected officials, I would hope that when you provide information to city staff that is accurate and it's correct. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other testimony in opposition? Okay, moving on. Testimony of a general nature. Okay, hearing none. Well, no, we still got one more step. Anything more from the applicant in rebuttal to anything that was said or any other holes you'd like to fill for information? Nope. Okay, at this point, public hearing is closed and the council completes their knowledge with any other questions they might have and begins deliberation toward a conclusion. City Council.
So I'll start here because I appreciated Dave's opposition and the public testimony component. And I'd like to hear what your thoughts are, Mike, on the concerns he raises, especially about the fire trucks, especially the 3-story issue surrounding what he claims is the 40-foot turn for a 46-foot truck. And I'm curious what conversations you've had about that potential. I'm curious what conversations you've had about that potential issue.
Well, the fire marshal reviews all of our plans moving forward and hadn't made any comments. So typically they have it modeled. So the applicant's required. I think there's a modeling analysis included in some of the sheets for the proposed PUD and subdivision, but typically up to 30 inches or 30 feet to the eaves of a structure doesn't require ladder access. It's above that 30-foot threshold to the eave that requires that. So typically these structures are constructed, and then the fire marshal would review that at the time just to make sure it meets all fire code requirements.
And at this point, in this part of the phase, the fire marshal has not stated any concern.
No,
But the fire marshal did review it.
correct.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
I didn't mean to cut you off.
no.
Your Honor, if I would clarify, in any property in the city, the existing conditions dictate what can be constructed on it. So when we talked about fire flow, we talk about ladder access. All the fire code requirements will be reviewed at the time of a permit application. And let's say they're proposing something that's 34 feet to the eave without ladder access, that building would not be permitted. So everything has to comply with the fire code. So what gets built into the development, the radiuses they build or the fire flow that exists will control what will be permitted for construction. So regardless of what the applicant said, we'd like to look at 3-story options. If there's a location that exceeded a fire code standard, it would not allow to be constructed. So everything will comply with the codes as adopted by the city based upon the confines the developer has created in this project. So I wouldn't, that will all be reviewed before any permits are issued for any individual structures. And if it means that they have to do 2-story there and they can't do 3-story, that will be what the limitation is.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mike. I'm not sure, or Bill. We've had some complaints over the time of the construction of this subdivision about stormwater runoff, and I just wonder if you have any opinion on that, or if you've dealt with complaints about runoff from this development.
Well, just before they installed all the stormwater infrastructure. So when the property was graded, obviously when there's a rain event, you'll have some erosion, some runoff. And so like all the pictures that were submitted are before essentially the stormwater system's put into place. The roads are constructed, stormwater detention pond, all the curbing and catch basins direct all that stormwater to the stormwater detention ponds. And so, obviously when the grounds first opened up and there's just initial grading, there's going to be some issues until all the infrastructure gets put into place to convey that stormwater.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
Thank you.
No motion for me yet. 2 clarifying questions. One, I did read in our packet, and I'm glad that Dave was here to also reiterate. I am curious about this DEQ permitting thing. Is that solely, does the city ever intervene on that? Is that one of our conditions for developers to have to evaluate if they need a DEQ license or anything like that? Or is that strictly between the state and the developer?
Your Honor, ask Bob to answer that question.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for
Been
being
there for
here.
a bit.
Yeah.
Bob DeVille from the engineering department.
Yeah, so we as the city act kind of as the state's representative within the city limits for DEQ, for DEQ permitting and enforcement. It's part of our stormwater permits, or our stormwater permit with the state. And so, as far as the lag time between when construction was started and the DEQ permit was was applied for. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to, in the records, find anything, any reasons why there was that delay. And so it was once the issue was discovered, the city acted, required the developer to get the appropriate permits and move forward with that process.
That helps. Thanks, Bob. I was also just going to add from one thing with my work hat on, we know that DEQ has been like severely understaffed. Like they've had pretty severe turnover. So I'm glad once we figured it out, we addressed it. I'm hoping it was a fairly painless application process when the time came for it. And thank you for clarifying what the city being kind of the extension of the Department of Environmental Quality to do the thing. So that that's my only DEQ related question. I don't know if anyone has. Okay. And then thanks, Bob. I have a question and I'm hoping it might be a Mike question. It might be a Bill question. The one condition that P&Z had suggested is that, am I misremembering that was from something that happened the last time this came before us, or is the staff recommendation to approve with no conditions is that the no conditions directly in response to what P&Z was recommending, which was the one condition? I made that's word salad. I don't know if someone else wants.
What's the condition?
Let Bill take a stab at it.
Okay, yes, sorry, because I'm reading through the proposed action and it says no conditions, but I can't remember.
Bill's
If I may.
Cool, save me from myself.
Yeah, there's two actions. The condition that P&Z recommended is on the plat, and staff is recommending that condition be imposed. That is to do the stormwater analysis. There's no recommended conditions on the major PUD amendment. Mike, is that correct?
Correct.
You saved me from myself. Thank you very much. We love that. And following up, I am curious to understand this concern that Dave brought up about the code conversation with the $250 direct reimbursement, and if it was something that should have gone to bid or not, and if this is something that should be parked and addressed and not. But I don't understand. So help me understand. Make it make sense.
If I may, this has been a long-standing common practice, excuse me, by the city and many other communities in Idaho. Oftentimes we are participating to upsize a sewer main in a development to be able to serve property beyond it. There's no way we are going to segment that project out and we're going to bid that sewer main in the middle of that developer's project. So we will reimburse them the cost to increase the size of the pipe. We had an agreement with trying to remember the owner's name at the time, but the Mosier Park property that the city acquired back in the early 90s, that we were going to pay our half of those frontage improvements. The developer's building the entire subdivision. We can't build in a separate contractor just to build our half of it. So it is a very common practice that we reimburse developers for our share of their particular development, whether it's upsizing a water main, sewer main, or in this case, frontage developments. The council approved all of those arrangements. It was in the development agreement. It was in the condition of approval. The council was the party that decided what the city was going to share and participate in this project. And that was documented in that development agreement and in the actual decision of the council. The booster stations were identified in 2012 and we had 5 of them we needed to reconstruct. And when we are reconstructing that one and we were doing the design, we have to look at the entire area that booster station is going to serve. And so that was already anticipated. The city did take 2 low interest revolving state loans to do those improvements because we did not have adequate capital reserves, but those projects were programmed since 2012. And really had nothing to do with this project other than the initial analysis before completion indicated we could only serve that first phase. And then the second phase, once that booster station, which was already bid awarded
To be online.
to be on construction, would take care of everything else. So, in our eyes, there is no concern of our ability to serve this development.
Okay. I think that's all I've got.
Julia.
So Bill, or Mike, or Bob, the idea of building a booster station, those are, if I'm correct, that's done in anticipation of future development in an area. Is that right? To provide
Typically done due to the area that we were trying to serve. So either that area is too high elevation, and so our reservoirs do not provide adequate pressure. So most of our booster stations serve higher elevation areas of the city. Or you can have booster stations because you get frictional loss. So if you have a very long water main, you will lose pressure over the length of that main, and you may need to boost it to get there. So that, that booster station was there to serve all of the developments on both sides of Orchard and Arborcrest. But our early booster stations they had enough capacity to provide the appropriate residential pressure and residential flows, but they were not constructed to provide fire flow. And that was the deficiency was identified in 2012. So Indian Hills, Ponderosa, Vista, we had multiple booster stations that needed to be reconstructed in White Avenue in order to provide adequate fire flow to those either high elevations or long distance water mains. So it was there to serve existing development, and it was not providing fire flow to the existing development. So at the time of design, we also take into account future development, so we are not rebuilding or having to upsize that booster station in the future.
So, I mean, Dave, Mr. Lemons has presented a lot of information that makes it sound like there was some kind of sweetheart deal between the city and the developer to create a booster station. But it's my understanding that booster stations are just normal part of infrastructure development.
Correct. And that was programmed 10 years prior to this development.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I've got, I guess, I'm going back to this code conversation about putting things out to bid, it makes sense that we're not going to build one segment of Mario pipe halfway down a block and hope that the other funding for the other half of the block comes through. But it seems like this is an opportunity for us to make sure that if as per the code, we've got public works construction or reimbursement construction that would exceed the $200,000 as dictated in code, that we are aware. And I don't know if that happens very often or if we're concerned about that in any way, or am I overthinking this?
We're not concerned about it, but I'm happy to have the city attorney take a look at that to make sure that we don't have any concern with our past practice.
Okay, that helps.
Haley, I didn't quite catch all that.
I want to make sure that if the reimbursement conversation in the code that's flagged 67-2805, if the amount is what is triggering the concern and because it exceeds $200,000, what can we do to make sure that we are aware if there's not a concern about a code violation, then that helps.
I appreciate that.
You guys, I'm on word salad soup tonight.
Yeah.
So
In those situations, we are not the party in control. We are not contracting the project. We are paying for some upsizing typically.
that we've already agreed to.
And to be honest, it's usually 70% less than what it would cost us to construct it. So it's really not feasible for us to get in and independently bid and construct our components of a project. That's not going to be a workable situation, but we're happy to do a review for the council.
Yeah, I hear you, and I hear that we're not in control and that whole thing, but if we do violate something inadvertently, we need to make that okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the major PUD amendment with conditions and direct staff to prepare a reasoned statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
Can I clarify one point there?
Yeah, what did I do?
There were no conditions recommended on that one for the PUD. It's for the plat, I believe.
Oh,
Major PUD amendment with conditions.
so
Well, you've got
that's
one
not
and
the
two.
planning and zoning amendment? Conditions?
So-
It's for the plat, not the,
So the proposed action number 1, approve the major PUD amendment for Woodbury First Edition with no conditions and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reason statement of relevant criteria.
Or,
I tried to pick out the right ones and, okay.
but then it goes on to say, or approve the major PUD amendment with conditions.
Correct. It's because, the
Oh,
council has
like
multiple
we made
options.
up
You
our own
can approve it with no conditions. You can approve it with conditions. That's just listing all of your available
All right,
options.
Mr. Mayor, I withdraw that and I move that we approve the major PUD amendment for Woodbury First Edition with no conditions and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reasoned statement of relevant criteria.
I
That's
still
what I meant.
second it.
Okay. Motion second. Any further discussion? Okay, Bryce,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Gina.
Hi.
Okay, that's action number 1.
Oh.
I'm afraid to do it.
Want me to do it?
Sure, you
Okay.
do it.
I move that, now I gotta find the right place to start. We approve the preliminary replat with no conditions and direct, is that the right one? Nope, sorry.
With one condition.
Is approved to approve the preliminary replat for Woodbury First Edition with one condition and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reason statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
Okay, Bryce seconds. Any further discussion?
To-
Julia,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Gina,
Hi.
Haley,
No,
Sandra.
Aye.
Okay, carries 5-1.
4-1.
4-1.
4-1. We're missing Drew. Sorry. Okay, moving right along. Public hearing for Woodbury Edition right-of-way vacation request with Bob Bevell. And rather than launch
you,
into
Mike.
the lengthy preamble, because everybody's exactly the same as you were the first time around, the same conditions apply for the process involved here. So at this time, the public hearing is open. Present the staff's perspective, Bob.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm here to talk to you today about the Woodbury Edition right-of-way vacation. This is kind of the first step that we need to go through in order to move forward with the replat of the Woodbury Edition. I'm pretty sure by this point everybody's familiar with where the Woodbury development is. So in order to do the replat, if the replat is going to plat over any existing right-of-way, any right-of-way that had previously been platted, that right-of-way needs to be vacated in order for the plat to move forward. So this is kind of just one of the first mechanisms that we need to do in order to move forward with the preliminary plat. So the state statute requirements for vacation, that we hold a public meeting. That was already held. Part of the vacation easements are also included as are also to be treated like right-of-way and vacated like right-of-way. In this request, there are a couple of easements that would need to be vacated along with the right-of-way. So 30 days prior to the advertisement notice, the developer did hold a public hearing and they submitted their comments. And one of the conditions that we have in there, if there are any easements or any existing utilities within any of the easements that we are going to vacate, there is a clause that says that we need to, that this vacation doesn't eliminate any easements for existing utilities. And there also needs to be a determination that the vacation is in the public's best interest. The two vacations that we are looking at today, this is the Ashton Lane vacation, as we've already talked about in length. This roadway was originally platted to be a public road, meeting more public standards as a developer wants to change the road types and the surfacing types. We encouraged him to go with a private road instead of a public road, so that he could move forward with his kind of his vision and alleviate us from some of the maintenance responsibilities with that. The other vacation that we're looking at is the Woodbury Drive. This is the portion of Woodbury that goes through the town center portion of the replat. These lots are the neighborhood where the neighborhood business lots are going to be, and part of the new vision being a roadway that will still have our 28-foot travel way, but the sidewalks will extend out to the edge of the right of way. There will be a zero setback, And narrowing this right away kind of allows for a little bit more of the neighborhood feel, neighborhood business feel that the developer is going for. So this vacation would eliminate 3 feet on either side of the existing 60-foot right-of-way to reduce the Woodbury right-of-way down to 54 feet. And it also eliminates the 2 public utility easements that run adjacent to those that right-of-way. The public utility easement on the west side will no longer be needed. Those easements are going to be run down the east side of the lots, down the private road, so that is no longer going to be needed. The public utility easement on the east side of Woodbury will be replatted with the new plat. So staff's recommendation is to hold a public hearing, and after considering public testimony, approve the vacation ordinance under the suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete separate readings, and that be read by title and published by summary. Do we have any questions?
Okay, no questions at the moment. At this time, we invite the applicant to come up and provide any further testimony. Mr. Wentz, you still get to introduce yourself again.
Honor and council. My name is Mark Wentz. I reside at 1004 Dairy Lane, Moscow. Applicant here. This is a lot to do about a little thing. I mean, I gotta say, we kind of wrestled when we were over the width of street. We didn't get anywhere in terms of city standards, but we just kind of kept coming back to this Ashton Lane that it's you're going to have really low traffic and very little parking on it. And we've seen some other projects where they put, done this where they have like your parking lane is gravel and you put your trees in that parking lane and it sort of brings the tree cover together more, quicker. So it's a small thing, but it was just a little detail that we wanted to do. We really want to see it happen. We ended up with a sidewalk just on one side. So overall, the right of way is narrower, so we're happy with it. If you're happy with that, and we're going to take care of cleaning out the inlets and so forth. Again, down at the town center one where it's a small thing, but just a little detail, just a little tweaking where we can kind of bring things together. I mean, street widths are, it's difficult to, there's a lot to say about that, but I mean, there is something that happens when you can narrow a street down, and it's enchanting in some way, because I think that's what most people are going to Europe for, is to just not for the mountains, but, to walk these unusual spaces. And it just creates a really unique feel. So we're just trying to move just a little bit towards that. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions? Nope. Anything else from the applicants? Nope. Okay, moving on to public testimony in favor. Public testimony in opposition. And public testimony of a general nature. Okay, hearing none. There's nothing to rebut on the part of the applicant, I don't think. So public hearing is closed, and we move on to council.
Again, just for my own kind of learning curve here, how often do we see a vacation request come before us for streets? Because I can't, again, in my time thus far on council, I don't think I've seen a vacation request come before us for a street. So I'm curious how often that maybe happens.
I think the last one that happened was with a replat of the Southgate 3rd Phase 3. Was another, that one wasn't a PUD, but it was another example of the developer reworking the layout of their property and needing to vacate the right of way in order to plat over top of it. And I think that happened in 2021.
Didn't we just do one with, by,
Bend in the road.
the bend in the road by Tuna and Ponderosa and all of that behind where
Cleveland.
Springers used to live?
I think,
Or
I
was
believe
it-
that was a, yeah, that was a waiver of public improvements, I believe.
I thought
All
the
right.
same thing.
All right.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the vacation request by adoption of the ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that the ordinance be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further commentary?
One
I-
comment.
Yeah. After you, Sandra.
And
I'll
that's
go.
only that, I like roads and mountains, so I think I'd probably go to Europe for the mountains, but this is gonna be okay.
I just like that we're talking about vacation and Europe and,
You're right. This was a lot of to do about a little thing. You're exactly right. But I do feel that the intuitive and the flexibility, intuition and flexibility and dedication to a quality place is very important, and you have demonstrated it, and I hope that you continue, further out with that deliberate attention to something as small as trees where they should be, and they can, please do, because I think that this is a very welcoming, and I'm going to go right for the streets in the mountains too, but this is very, very important, and I think this is what will make the difference in this development.
Okay, time to vote. Julia,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Haley,
No.
Sandra.
Aye.
Okay, passes again, 4-1. Okay, ordinance number 2025-2025-07.
07.
An ordinance of the city of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the vacation of certain public streets right-of-ways and public utility easements located within the Woodbury First Edition and located within the city of Moscow and legally described in Section 2 of this ordinance, providing that the title to said vacated public street rights-of-way and public utility easements shall vest with the owners of the property as specified in Section 4 of this ordinance, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable and providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from the date of its passage, approval, and publication according to law. And there we have it. So that takes us to the end of our regular agenda and on to reports. So if anybody's not interested in hearing council reports, that's the end of it. But
Yeah, you
we'll
can
start
run
with
now.
Julia.
I'd wait. No.
Yeah, now Julia, tell us what you did.
You need to do more homework. That's all.
Yeah. So we had budget workshop in the last 2 weeks, and that was, really important time for the council to get together and go over the priorities of the city and how we are going to use the tool of finances to make those priorities happen. Gosh, my other meeting got canceled. Human rights. July is maybe not the best time to have commission meetings. It seems like we often have to cancel those for a lack of a quorum. But we will get back on that next month. Just want to have a little shout out for the Food for Kids program. I've been working with them a little bit, which like mindless work. I've been stuffing bags full of food. So, but every day, Monday through Friday, kids from 5 to 18, 0 to 18 can go to Lena Whitmore and get free lunch. And it's a really, they've made it into a really fun activity. So you can go there and get free lunch. And on Fridays, kids can take home a bag of food for the weekend that, you at least get kind of a couple of breakfasts and a dinner and some snacks to hold you over the weekend. So any kids out there, any parents out there that need that support, it is available all summer. Yeah, that's it.
Wow, cool. Gina, what you got?
We didn't have tree commission. So I was all excited about transportation and then spaced it. So I shirked my duties and for that I apologize. I will report on it next council meeting. Other than that, all I've been doing is being a 4-time grandmother and enjoying that and looking forward to tree commission in the beginning of August.
Oh, well. Okay, Sandra.
I also don't have a lot to report on. Budget, it was, I thought it was actually a really good meeting and I'm going to say the surprise, they get easier as we go along. Right. So that was great. I appreciate it. And really, the main thing I had was the fire meeting and things are going well. Gosh, the whole system, fire, EMTs, paramedics, they're rolling along and doing great things. And I'm always nervous to say there aren't any issues going on because then I feel like, no pun intended, things could blow up. So, yeah, that was great. And then I do want to put a plug in for this Sunday is the Historical Society Ice Cream Social at the McConnell Mansion. I can't remember the time, but I think it's like 12 to 4. But look on the website if you need to, or you can email me and I will let you know. But it's always it's a fun thing. And if you come at the right time, I'll scoop you some ice cream.
How many scoops can you have?
Well, it depends on how nice you are to me.
Okay, friend.
I think we have we're lenient on that. So
I
One
think
to
I
four.
remember being when I
Usually
was
plenty
scooper.
of ice cream.
Oh, Haley.
1 to 4. I just looked on my calendar.
Hey,
1
thank
to
you.
4
1
on
to
Sunday.
4.
Let's see. Budget. We're going forward through time. Thank you to Gina for helping me cover the Public Works meeting on the 14th. We were at a very, very hot wedding at Camp Wooten outside Pomeroy with no phone service, and it was lovely and delightful. But sunburns were had, so thank you for giving me a sunburn.
Yeah,
It's great. Smart Transit met last Wednesday. We are much closer than I know. This is like the recurring update. We spent some extra time with staff after the board meeting ended because we're very close to actually getting our own proprietary data from the previous ridership
No
service
way.
to what we have now. And then throwing it in a pivot chart that actually can help us understand how we're trending versus COVID service versus pre-COVID service. So we're getting there. And PBAC met last Thursday, but I did not attend because I was at Rendezvous for Kids both days, which is on Thursday, Friday, which was just spectacular. And this weekend was just Friday, Saturday music was fantastic, and it's just my favorite summer thing. And I was very happy to see Bryce and Sandra there. And I don't know if you just hung out on your porch and listened.
No, we had a gig. Sorry.
You gigged? Oh,
I was
I'm
in
sad I missed
Poland.
it. I
was
love it.
across the border.
And I'm trying to think if there's anything to flag into the end of the month. Sorry,
Tree commission's coming, just in case.
Tree commission's coming. Happy belated birthday to Bill. And I think that's all I have.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In chronological order from our last meeting, which was July 7th, on July 8th, attended the budget workshop as well. And again, echo the sentiments that were stated already. Also that same day, we had Moscow Arts Commission. So I was in this room a lot that day. And yeah, cranking along with some upcoming projects. And they started to really discuss the mural at the city shop, which was exciting. And given the scope of that potential mural, there's a lot of excitement and to make sure that it gets there's a lot of excitement with that project, which was cool. Also as a plug for our avid audience still here and watching online, please tell your writer friends that we are still accepting application for Moscow's next poet laureate. Please spread that around in your circles because there have not been a ton of applicants. So thus far, and it closes at the end of the month. Yeah.
My,
So
my wonderful poetry.
yeah, Julia.
I don't think Bryce has gotten to experience.
I have actually.
Oh,
but
you
I-
have?
yeah, I have. But yeah, so tell your friends because the application window closes at the end of July. On the 7th or on the 9th rather, planning and zoning, where there was another public hearing for another development that I'm sure we'll see coming down the road here in just a bit. I covered for someone on public works and finance.
Julia,
Yeah, you're like,
Julia,
I don't know.
Julia.
I don't know.
Like a good daughter.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. And then, similar to Haley, I volunteered at Rendezvous for Kids on Thursday and Friday morning and helped kind of set up stuff Thursday afternoon to get things rocking and rolling for the weekend, which it was great. So it's such a wonderful and inspiring community event that feels really wholesome and really Moscow, and the music was great both nights, so it was very enjoyable.
And the Rice Krispies from Lions Club. Wowie zowie.
Thank you. We made like $800
so
from our
good.
homemade baked goods.
They were so good.
Nice.
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, for me, not so much, very quiet except for the whole budget workshop and preparations therefore. And otherwise, it's been a lot of housekeeping around town and people off on vacation, which has left a little bit of a hollow in things. Everybody's staying busy in the aftermath of the guilty plea. And that's been rather preoccupying for a lot of folks. So, and one of those unhappy summertime events that's occurred. But other than that, not much on my agenda for doings. Anything?
Nothing from staff this evening.
Nothing from staff. So,
I move we adjourn.
Second.
and second, all in
Birthday
favor?
I.
Aye.
When was it?
Aye.